everybody, it's me, JTJ. I'm here today with a review of King of the Hills episode, King of the Anthill. I know, they were pretty clever in their first season, huh? So, I'm gonna go over the usual right quick. This episode was directed by Gary McCarver. I hope I pronounced that name right. As usual, it was supervised, directed by Wesley Archer. And this episode was written by the late, great Johnny Hardwick and Paul Lieberstein. I hope I pronounced his name right. I'm going to feel so embarrassed if I didn't. It was also staff written, as usual, by the late, great Johnny Hardwick and Jim Dotrieve. And as usual, it was created by Mike Judge and Greg Daniels. Also, I'm just going to point out there was no real guest stars in this episode, so I thought I would just straight up tell you guys that this episode has no guest stars. Nothing out of the ordinary there, just the usual cast. But anyway, this episode is just kind of fascinating because there was so many things Hank could have done that was so simpler to get rid of the ants that probably wouldn't have costed money. I heard of pouring hot boiling water down an ant hole that apparently can kill them. This episode's basically Hank discovers his lawn sucks because he's been letting Dale, voiced by Johnny Hardwick, as usual, spray his lawn with poisons and pesticides, and it's just kind of ruining his lawn. So he decides to tell Dale, "You're just my friend now. You're no longer my exterminator." So he kind of gets rid of the whole exterminator element to his lawn, and he buys St. Augustine grass, which is apparently back then $1.25 per square foot, which I'm guessing with inflation nowadays would measure up to $5. So I guess he was paying a lot per square foot. I'm not sure. I'm not an expert on lawn care because, as I told you in a previous video, I don't have a grassy lawn as much as I wish I could, but I digress. Does something sneaky and sneaks some ant queens in his lower leg and drops them onto the grass like freaking Andy Dufresne from Shawshank Redemption did with, the wall. But anyway, Hank tries numerous things to get rid of these ants that don't work because Dale is either sabotaging it or he's planting more ant queens on the lawn. Which, by the way, the first time he did was pretty sneaky, but what I would have done was just like, since I live next door to the guy, wait till 3 a.m. and just dump a bunch of queens over his lawn from over the fence. Odds are they're just going to go. I think that's eventually what Dale did. I'm assuming if he just went straight up on the lawn and did that, someone's bound to catch him. But if he did it from his fence, odds are no one would really notice unless someone's up all night and looks out their window, which would be creepy. Anyway, so we get to the part where freaking Hank decides, I'm going to mow them out of my lawn. He uses his mower and just kind of rams them off of his lawn like a superhero in an action film. Or not a superhero, but you know what I mean. And then the next morning he finds a whole bunch of hills on his lawn. Yep. Hank Hill finds a bunch of ant hills on his lawn. Yep. That would have been more interesting as a neighborhood attraction. Hank Hill, the man with the ant hills. That's what I would have gone for. Then again, that would probably be a nuisance, and he would probably have to get fined for keeping them because they would get on other people's lawns. So maybe he can't keep the ants. I don't know. I don't know how that stuff works. Maybe don't have a neighborhood association in your neighborhood if you don't want one. If you had the power not to have one, I suggest don't do it. But anyway, yeah. The episode basically ends with Hank resolving his differences with Dale after almost wanting to kick Dale's ass for doing all that. And you see at the end, basically they reference It's a Wonderful Life, where Jimmy Stewart's character, George Bailey gets all that money to pay off or whatever. Well, Hank gets a new lawn, sort of. But anyway, what I would rate this episode, I'd probably have to rate it a 7.6. It's actually kind of a banger of an episode, not gonna lie. Not a big a banger as the last one, but this one's pretty good. But yeah, I also want to talk about the season finale of Hank King of the Hill. I'm going to be doing. There's some stuff in the works, and I plan on doing a collaboration. But yeah, so stay tuned and keep an eye out for it. But till next time, stay tight.